There are things that we do, and there's the intention that people will value it or appreciate it or want it. But some of that is upon us to reclaim, like, what these processes, whatever they are. In this instance, we're talking about cooking. How much of that is you, and how much of it can you make for you? And I want to come back to one of the questions that's in here. And I love that Damari posted this, because lots of reasons, including that it resonates with me. I'm not a person who enjoys cooking or baking. I always say I'm the type of foodie who likes to eat things, but to make them for me sounds like a chore. Like I don't enjoy it in that way. And I enjoy the food, and there are processes around food and drinks and lots of things that I really enjoy. So to Damari's question here, what if you don't enjoy the steps along the way? Because I know a part of Karen's background as someone who ran a Montessori school in Japan, and I don't know if you run them in other places as well, you're dealing with children and you're a mom, so you know that, right? And just as a human, it's every process, every part is not going to be enjoyable. Can you touch a little bit on what you do when there are parts of your process that you don't enjoy?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the things that we all know and understand is, part of being a human being sometimes is doing things that we don't enjoy doing. And the beauty of this process and the way that I like to approach it is the fact that, it's really, like I said, like welcoming people to this big open table, and you take from it what you will, and you leave what you are not interested in. I personally happen to love so much of the process, like whether it's, wandering up and down the aisles of a market to go shopping for ingredients, all the way through the cooking and even the cleanup process after. All of it is a part of the journey. But I will also be the first person to tell you that I have a lot of personal issues around washing dishes. Not necessarily a fan. So there are times when, I'm happy to do everything but washing the dishes. And that's okay, because in our family, we have a wonderful agreement worked out, where, my husband and my son, they will pick up the slack. And, sometimes it's all of us working together. Sometimes I'm like, I've been in the kitchen for hours, I'm done. And they're like, it's okay, we've got it. It's something that we have all, participating in the process together, have come to a consensus and agreement. We've worked out an arrangement that works for all of us. We all enjoy eating, and I enjoy taking on the bulk of, what it usually involves preparing the meals for us as a family. And so that's something that we've worked out. Now, there are times when, my process also involves like every utensil and half the plates and bowls in the house.
That's crazy, yeah.
There are times when they're just like, oh my gosh, what blew up in here? And then there are those times when I will say to them, this was a part of my process and a part of my, again, meditative process, coming back to slowing things down, is I'm going to be the one to, wash a lot of these dishes too. And that's okay as well. But that's something that I've had the opportunity to practice and to approach in a new and a different way than I did as a child, when I had to wash the dishes, because that was my job. That was my household chore. That was my responsibility. It was assigned to me. And it's a completely different thing now. So I have had the opportunity to step away from that and to approach it anew, just like I have a whole cooking process. And I invite others to do the same. If maybe you don't like cooking, maybe it's time to take a step back and look at why that is. Or maybe, as you said, Akilah, there are some aspects of it that you enjoy, and others maybe that you don't so much. We are in a blessed place of having the privilege to outsource a lot of those tasks that we don't enjoy. And if you're in a position to do that, all the more power to you. There is nothing wrong with taking advantage of that opportunity to provide someone else with the work to be able to do that too. But as I said, I feel like it's a great opportunity, especially for us as adults, if that's not something that we enjoy, rather than just saying, I don't want to do that, I don't like that, to take a look at why that is. And what is it about those aspects that you don't enjoy? And consider how that might impact the way that you approach it and the way that you share that experience with others in your household, with your children, with your family members.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's kind of what you've inspired some of that already, as I mentioned, because in the village we were talking about the shifting around why we, relationships around cooking and food. And I hear you say a few things that I really want to highlight. So one is joy, because you talked about the parts that you enjoy and taking that on. You also brought up childhood, so we can think about the fact that cooking might have been a chore. Maybe you were the oldest sibling and you needed to do that, or you tie it to different experiences in childhood that don't feel good for you. And there are a lot of different things, a lot of different reasons we do things. So being able to connect with and communicate your why or your need around that why, because as you said, with your husband and with your son, you say, hey, I'm done, and they're willing. So you've been communicating it over time. There's language around it. There's what it looks like. I imagine that if you decide that they're cleaning up the kitchen, that you're not saying clean it up like this or do that or do that. Like you're actually letting go, right? Like if you're saying you're done, you're done.
Turn around and walk away.
Exactly. So there's a lot of self-examination, again, is what the opportunity is here, because we're not saying you need to like to cook or figure out why you don't like to cook so you can like to cook. We're saying communication. No, we're saying the self-inquiry, right? Yes. Those things. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that.
And the self-examination aspect of it, I think, is really important. Because as you said, I'm not asking people to look at why they don't like it so that they can try to make themselves like it and do it.
Right.
It's not about forcing some specific end result, but about just taking a look at what aspects of it are causing some resistance, because that resistance is likely making itself known in other ways too.